Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to take one of the most common everyday words in English, a word you probably don't even think about, and we're going to put it under the microscope. We're about to uncover the secret life hiding in just 3 little letters.
So let's just start with this big question right here. How much can one tiny word really tell us? About language, about meaning, about the way we actually talk to each other? Well, it turns out the answer is a whole lot more than you'd think.
And the word for our deep dive today is this one. W-E-T. Wet. It seems about as basic as it gets, right? So what on earth makes it so special? Well, here's the kicker. The word wet is on something called the Basic English 850 list. Now, this isn't just some random list. It's a carefully selected group of 850 core words that are considered powerful enough to explain almost any idea. So wet isn't just another word. It's basically a VIP, a real powerhouse of communication.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk about a word's fundamental identity, its sound. Before a word means anything at all, it's just a noise we make, a sound we all agree on. So how do we actually nail down the sound of wet?
Well, linguists have all these different systems for mapping sounds, like NPR or the International Phonetic Alphabet you see here. But check this out. No matter which system you're using, they all point to the exact same pronunciation. It's like the word's unique sonic fingerprint. But here's the thing. Even a sonic fingerprint can have a twin. This is where we get into homophones, words that sound exactly the same but mean totally different things. For a lot of people, depending on their accent, wet sounds identical to wet, which means to sharpen something like a knife or your appetite. It's a perfect example of why context is absolutely everything. So we've got the sound down. Now let's see how this thing builds. Because beyond its sound, wet is a real shapeshifter. It doesn't just have one job in a sentence. It can play 2 completely different roles. First up, its main gig. It's an adjective. Its job is to describe stuff. A thing can be wet, it can get even wetter, and it can be the absolute soaking wettest. It's a classic describing word. And our source gives us this perfect, simple example. I don't want to use this towel. It's already wet. Right there, wet is just describing the state of the towel. It's crystal clear, super effective. But, and this is where it gets cool, wet can also be a verb. It can be an action word. You can wet something. It's what's called a transitive verb, which is just a fancy way of saying the action has to be done to an object. You don't just wet in general, you wet the paintbrush or wet your hair. And like any good verb, it changes its form depending on who's doing what and when. It conjugates. So I wet, he wets, they wetted, we are wetting. That kind of flexibility is exactly what makes it so powerful. So, just to recap, we've got one sound and 2 different grammatical jobs. Now, let's get into its most complex feature, the many different layers of meaning it's hiding. This is the one we all know, right? The definition we learned as kids. It's literal, it's everyday. You get caught in the rain, you get wet. This is the bedrock, the foundation of the word. Of course it's not. Come on. Language is never that simple, is it? And this is where things get really, really interesting, because words operate in all these different communities and contexts. And then there's this, a second, completely different meaning that our source identifies as slang. In a totally different context, the exact same word is used to describe a state of sexual arousal. And that right there is the key. The same 3 letters, 2 wildly different meanings, and the only thing that tells them apart is context. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. Why did we just spend all this time dissecting one little word? What does it really tell us about the genius behind this idea of basic English? Well, it all comes back to this number, 850. The whole point of basic English was to find the hardest working, most multi-purpose words out there. The words that could do the most heavy lifting with the least effort. And wet is the perfect poster child for this whole idea. I mean, think about it. We've seen that this one little word can be an adjective and a verb. It's got a literal meaning and a slang meaning. Its power isn't really in its simplicity, but in the deep complexity that's hiding just beneath the surface. And the master key that unlocks all of it is context. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The next time you use a word like run or set or go, which are all on that same 850 list, by the way, just take a second to appreciate all the secret lives it's living. So, what simple word will you look at differently now?